Okay, so we're going to continue off where we left off yesterday with civil cells. So if you're in chapter 11, we're going to actually go through part of the exercise together. It depends on how much time that we have in class. I've created this exercise to either be like 4 hours, 2 hours, 1 hour. Just depends on where we're at and how much time that we have. Since Bill took so much time yesterday with cross sections and earthwork, we got cut down on time a little bit. I'm not blaming you. And corridors and everything that Bill taught yesterday.
Super elevation.
And yeah, everything that the whole day basically Bill went long on. So today we're a little bit shorter on it, but we have files that allow us to pick up from a certain spot. Now the only reason that I create this large exercise is because this is our last actual chapter before we get into just doing conversions. So this is that last chapter of the actual training portion of it. And then Kevin comes in hopefully sometime today, and we'll do the last 5 chapters in the book, sorry, for the conversion portion of it. But this last chapter, if you actually went from steps 1 through however many, like 89 or 90 steps, it would tie everything that we've done this week together so far. We'd create the horizontal alignment, create the vertical alignment, put corridors in, mess with templates and all that kind of stuff, and then get to the civil cell portion. But for this class, we're just going to go and look at the civil cell portion of it. So if you want to turn in the back of chapter 11 to page 11-23, we're actually going to start on step number 30. Like I said, if we had time, we would go ahead and start from the very beginning and take a look at these drawings and everything. But since we're kind of limited on time a little bit, we'll just start with step number 30, and we're going to actually go in and place some civil cells. And we have a drawing to do that, so if you're already logged in, if you're already logged in to your machine, go ahead and go into the ProjectWise Explorer and go to Chapter 11 and Data under your Power Geopack J2P0200. And you should see a large list of files that we have in there. If you were starting from the very beginning, step number 1 would have you open a completed corridor design. But we're going to actually start on step 30. So there's a drawing in there that has step 30.dgn at the end of it. So it's C11 group exercise step 30. And that's the drawing that I want you to go ahead and open up. So all that drawing is this complete corridor design worked all the way up to step number 30 in this exercise. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into that. And throughout this chapter, if you look at the exercise, it actually starts on 11:15. What we're doing throughout there is we're opening that other drawing. We're creating a GPK for job number 111, which we already have created for us. There's another portion in there in that step number 4 that talks about checking your geographic coordinate system. So if you haven't set the coordinate system or you don't know what the coordinate system is for a particular file, these are the steps you can go through to check to see if it has a coordinate system. Chad has put in, especially for the Central District, we have like Boone County, Cole County, you have all.
It's all the counties that the surveyors set up whenever they go out
Okay.
and shoot that project.
Right, so those counties are available now to set a geographic coordinate system. So this one is currently set up in the Boone County coordinate system, but that shows you how to go through and set that up. It goes in and talks about setting the terrain model active, which we've done in previous chapters. It goes in and draws in horizontal alignment, and it uses, in this particular drawing, it uses that existing ground as your vertical alignment. Okay, because what this is out to the left-hand side of this drawing, there is an existing roadbed already there, and we're going to place a roundabout at an intersection out there. So this kind of steps you through how to create the items that's missing right here would be this road right in this location. We'd be putting that road in, but it's already in this drawing. Okay, but in the original drawing, that road's not in. We go and put that in. That's basically what we're doing with that, and we use the Civil AccuDraw tools to put that in. We use the MoDOT proposed baseline to throw it in the GPK and all that. Okay, and then once we get over to 11-23, that's when we're ready to put in our civil cell. And so with this exercise, we can kind of show you how civil cells work, what civil cells we have available right now, and kind of how to place them in there. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go through this portion of it together. Then at the very end, there is an individual exercise, which probably shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes to do. It's just placing the other legs of the roundabout. So we're going to place one together and then let you place the other ones around the edge. So it should be pretty easy. Everyone should not crash or have any problems. Everyone should be able to work through this perfectly with no questions at all. Okay, so step number 30. Expand the tasks over here on the left-hand side. And then we're going to go down in the tasks under Civil Tools to our civil cells. So like I said yesterday, they've got their own little location. That's how special they are. They have their own little spot.
There's only 4.
Yes, just like me. There are 4 tools in those. You can drag those out if you want. Right-click in the blank area next to them, and then open Civil Cells as a toolbox if you'd like. That'll pull those out and keep you from having to go to the tasks all the time. Okay, inside here, again, like yesterday, that first tool on the left-hand side is to create one. Hopefully you shouldn't have to do that at least in the next 5-6 years, because you're going to have to really know this program really well to do a civil cell. But if you ever need one, also just contact me and I'll try to put it together for you. The second tool is placing it, so we can use that tool. The third tool over is to process a civil cell. Like I said, if something out there changes and you need to have it update, kind of to do a refresh on it, you can use that tool to refresh it. And then the last tool in there is to drop a civil cell to its regular civil elements. So it's no longer a civil cell. Now it's horizontal lines, or vertical lines, meshes, or anything like that. Okay. So that second tool over, let's go ahead and push that second tool, which is to place a civil cell. And that's step number 31. So we're doing good so far.
Any questions?
There are no questions. So once that second tool pulls up this box, it shows on our upper left. It may show up on the right. It may show up somewhere else. If you're in your screen, that can be on the second monitor back at your desk possibly. But there's that 3 little dots, or the ellipsoid. Right now it's blank. You may have one in yours. I don't know. You may not. I looked at your machine earlier, so it's possible that there's one in there. But usually it'll come up blank when you first come into it. So like if you run the cleanup tool or something like that, that would come up blank. If you've placed civil cells, then the last civil cell that you placed will be in that dialog box already. Right now, we don't have anything in there, so we need to go select one. So push on the little ellipsoid button there. This is the same as step 32 here. And it's going to pull up another box. It's going to pull up the DGN library that we have all of our civil cells stored in right now.
One click only.
Yes, one-time click. The little blue circle means just wait. Okay, so here's the ones that we have created so far. Each one of these on the left-hand side has a plus next to it. If you click on one of the pluses, it'll expand out and say what that civil cell is that's in that DGN library file. If you click on that particular item, it'll show up what it looks like over on the right-hand side. Now it's a very kind of stick drawing. Yeah, it really doesn't show what that looks like when you place it. It just kind of shows the overall items that make up the civil cell. So on that first one there, that basic T intersection, the 2 red lines represent the things that you would have to have out in your drawing to be able to select to place that civil cell. Okay, so for that one, it's just the basic T intersection. I would have to have 2 lines that cross. And then when you go select that civil cell to place it, it's going to tell you whether it has to be a profiled line or not. If it doesn't have the word profiled in it, then it can just be a regular line without any vertical on it. Expand some of these others, like the second one down, basic T intersection with a curb. It looks pretty much the same, but it actually has a linear template placed along the edges of that civil cell that will put a curb in there for us automatically. Okay, same thing with the shoulder. That one would put a shoulder in there. Our mailbox turnout that I talked about, that is probably one of the best ones we have. Very first one that we ever created. You have to have kind of an edge of pavement there in the center of your mailbox turnout, and it will draw those 3 lines for you every time. And it is just amazing what it'll do. So if you have trouble with that one, just give me a holler. We can probably figure that out together. The other 2 that we have here, these are the ones we're going to work with in class, but I'm going to kind of go through each one of these real quick. The roundabout approach, basically when you pick on that one, it needs the roundabout, and it needs the center line of the of the road or the approach that comes into it. As long as you have those items out there, you can place the leg on that roundabout. Then the roundabout itself, the only one we have out there right now is a roundabout circle. Like I said, if it's an odd shape, you wouldn't be able to use this. You just have to use your regular civil tools. But right now, we're just doing round circle roundabouts. Okay. Does anybody have some that aren't circles? And, you know what a roundabout is, right? You good with that? Okay. So this one's a circle, and you see all the circles that make that up. If you place that and go click on it, then all of those different radiuses are out there that you can modify. So you can make it whatever size that you need. The other things that we have out here is a type 3 driveway. So you can place that one as well. And you have to have 3 items on that one. You have to have the edge of pavement, the center line of the drive, and then some sort of back edge, whether it's going to just some line that you have out there or if it's going to the right-of-way line. You just have to have those 3 out there to go place it. Okay. The median opening, these are the 2 that I just kind of completed here recently. If you go down, click on one of those to open it up. That's an actual median opening based on our standards in here, and you'd have to have the edge of shoulder, the edge of pavement on each side of our divided highway, and then some sort of center line that goes down through that median. Once you pick on all those items in the correct order, it'll place that for you. So you have to read the prompts for each one of these civil cells that you place. If you don't read prompts and you just go clicking on things, it's never going to work for you. So you just have to make sure you click on things in the exact order that I'd ask you to. For this particular one, we're going to pick on the roundabout circle to start. So go ahead and pick on roundabout circle and click OK. And you can see on that picture on the right, Bill has up there still, we need 2 items to place this. We need, and they don't necessarily have to cross, but you have to have at least 2 that touch at the intersection so that it knows where to place that intersection. Okay, so you have to have 2 lines for that roundabout. So go ahead and pick that one and click OK. On this one, I believe in the book that it says we're going to pick that north line and the south line. Okay. For this one, I don't necessarily need the existing ground turned on or anything like that. I can just place this out here. But if I had something that I was going to use as a clipping boundary, or it had some items that went down to existing ground, I'd have to make sure that my terrain model was set to the existing ground. Okay, and we're going to do that after we place this roundabout in here. We'll go and do that. First thing it asks you for here, it says locate reference element crossing center line. So it wants to know one of the crossing center lines for my roundabout. So just go up here and select the center line of this north-south road on the top portion. And if he leaves his mouse there, you'll see that it gives you the little circle with the line through it. That means you can't use that line again because you've already used it once. But it could also mean that, say that line wasn't profiled if it needed a profile. It will give you that little error and not let you select it. So it's kind of smart in that fashion. Okay, and then it says here, locate reference element, the other crossing center line, number 2, and it also has a 2 of 2. So that lets me know that I've only got 2 things that I need to choose. So this, once I pick this second item, it's going to want to place it. So I'll place that, select that second item on the left side there, the center line. And then you have to wait for just a second. It'll go ahead and try to put that in there. Now this is a circle, so it really doesn't matter if I flip it around or anything. It should place it properly in there. Okay. But if Bill comes down on, say, this left center line, and he looks, there's actually a kind of a triangle. It's an arrow that points one direction or the other on that line. If I needed to flip this civil cell to go to the other side or something like that, he can click on that line and it will actually flip that arrow the other direction. Because the program doesn't know which way the line was drawn. It may not match the way the civil cell was created in direction. So that flip allows it to flip it over and put it on the other side of the line if it needed to. Since this is a circle, you know, you're not going to see anything. But the other line would have that same information on it. If he moved up to the top line there, he'll have that same arrow that way, so we could flip it that direction. So what could happen to you is if you're going to place like a driveway that's got radius points on it, it might put the radius points on the other side of the line where you intended it to be. So if you pick that center line again and flip the arrow, then it'll flip it to the other side. Okay, so sometimes you really got to mess with them to get them to be exactly right, but that's what those allow you to do. Okay, the next portion of the heads-up prompt there says select element to view alternates. So what that's doing is that arrow. So anytime that you pick on these things, that's the alternates that it's talking about. If we're done, we like the way it looks there. It says reset to skip. That means we're not going to pick any more lines. We like the way it looks right now, so we'll hit the right mouse button, reset. Then it says, okay, this particular corridor or this particular roundabout has a surface applied to it. Okay, so it's got concrete surface actually applied to that civil cell. And it says, do you want to use that surface to clip out any of these corridors? Clipping is a big deal, especially right now. It will go out, and every time that you do anything into this drawing, it's going to have to recalculate these clips that you put in there. So anytime you put a civil cell in and you're using it to clip out other corridors, it has to look at that civil cell, all the corridors, all the points that get clipped out, and recalculate it every time you do something. So you just have to be aware. You can come back and clip it later if you want to. Or in what we're going to do in this particular exercise is we're going to trim back our templates in this area so that we don't have to clip them with our roundabout. We can actually clip them with our legs of our legs, I guess. Yeah, the legs of the roundabout. So when it asks for clipping, for this particular one, we're not going to do any clipping. So all we have to do is hit the right mouse button to reset, to say don't clip anything out right now, and then accept the civil cell placement with a left click. And then that will take a few seconds, and it will go out there and place it. If you clip something, it depends on what you're clipping, but it could take 3 or 4 times as long as what we just saw there, which isn't too much for this one, but you know, if it's a larger drawing or it has a lot of corridors in it or something like that, it could take a little bit longer to clip that out. Okay, so we've got now we've got that in there. We are in step number 39, which is editing our template range. So is that pretty cool though? Civil cell on there. If you look in the 3D view off to the right hand side, you'll see that it actually placed it in there. Now it didn't clip out those other I guess corridors that are in there. So you can kind of see the corridor actually goes through there a little bit and on that side. But it's not bad. The thing about this is when we get it all completed, they still won't butt perfectly up against this roundabout. The only reason that they don't is because that the profiles that are being used on those roads are the existing ground. So you would have to go in there and then create new profiles that actually met that roundabout. And once you did that and made those active, the corridor and everything would jump up and match that roundabout. So it only goes by what it knows. So if you're telling it that these roads are using the existing center line and this is flat and placed on there and maybe has a little bit of slope off of it, it's not going to match exactly on these two sides because you didn't pick those 2 lines on that side. So it could be warped a little bit. Where this leg comes in may not match exactly over here, but if you create a new profile along those corridors and raise it up a little bit or down, whatever it needs, then it'll match up perfectly. So you can see this portion of the class could be a whole day if we wanted it to be, just putting all this stuff in. Okay, so we've dropped that in there, and now instead of using the clipping tool, like we were going to clip that out, we can actually just modify our templates. Our corridor uses a template that goes all the way to the intersection right there, and I just want to bring them back. So that's a real easy process to do. If you zoom up to the top portion of this roundabout, the line that comes in, zoom up to the top of that, you'll see the purple dashed line that goes across there. If you hit F4, just make sure you're out of any tool, you can highlight that line. It's a template drop. Go ahead and select that line and then zoom out a little bit until where you can see the roundabout and everything. And once you pick that, you'll see that at the end of this one it's 200 plus 00 at the top, and then at the bottom it starts at 0 plus 00. Okay? You can do one of 2 things. You can drag that template up to some odd station, or if you know what the circle of the roundabout is, you could go back to that point. You can use snaps to do that if you want. I happen to know that it's 0 plus 75 that gets us off of the edge of the roundabout. So what I can do is make that start, instead of starting at 0 like it does here on the left hand side, click that 0 plus 00 and just change that to 0 plus 75 and hit enter. And that will reduce back my template. This is going to be a lot easier, at least for this portion of it. Instead of clipping, now it only has to figure that template range from there to there. and it doesn't have to worry about clipping anything out. The legs of our triangles are going to be placed on this corridor and on the roundabout, so it'll automatically fill that in for us when we get to that point. So we don't have to worry about the little gap that's in there right now. Okay, we're going to do that to the other 3 locations. We're going to find the purple line on the left-hand side. Okay. I believe these are all 0 plus 75. Should be, because they all meet in the center. So we'll change that first one to 0 plus 75. The only one that's going to be different is the one that's coming in from the right-hand side, because 0 is back up at the road that it's coming from. So we've got another location on this right-hand side, which is 4 plus 0, 0. So see if you can make those changes real quick. That gets us over to step number 44. Okay, so the one on the left is 0 plus 75, the one on the bottom 0 plus 75, and then the one on the right is 4 plus 0, 0. Okay. Like I said, you can punch those numbers in, or you can also, when you click on the edge of those purple dashed lines, once you get to the edge of one of those, it puts that little triangle on there, and you can just drag that down if you want, if you didn't care if it went to a particular station.
In this case, we have 4 template drops rather than 1.
Yep. This has a road that goes north, county road or side road, whatever. How do you determine what the name of that road is? Pretty easy. Just let your mouse rest on that center line, and you can actually click it one time and get the heads-up display and look at the properties of it. And in there, it should be named. Where's it named in here? You see it named in there? I'm not sure. Oh, yeah, that's got something else on it. That's just a line. Those are just lines in there. There should be a, try this one over here, try the one on the right side, because I know it's been placed out there. So that's CR 248 on the right side. The top lines and the rest of the lines aren't put in there as alignments yet, they're just lines, so they're not named at all. But the one on the right hand is, because it was using the MoDOT baseline proposed. So it's an actual alignment. Yeah. Okay, does everybody have that in there? No problems whatsoever? No way. What were you doing at the time of crash? What was happening during the time of the crash?
Didn't like the Lego.
Trying to edit the 4th leg, 0 plus 75.
Oh, down at the bottom. Huh. That shouldn't cause a problem.
Yeah, it's not giving him the option to edit that.
We didn't record any of this. It's been on mute the whole time. Or you had a good laptop. You have that terrible laptop. Yeah, number 16 laptop. I'll edit that out of the thing. Okay, the next thing that we need to do then is place one of these legs on here. So we're going to let's place the one on the top. And that is a corridor up there. It's got template drops and everything. So what we want to do is we're going to go back into civil cells. So we got that civil cell thing placed out there. Go ahead and hit the second tool again to place a civil cell. And then right now it's still looking for a roundabout circle. We could place more on top of each other, but it's just going to place one right on top of each other, and we don't want to do that. So we're going to pick a different one. Hit the little ellipsoid tool there, and we're going to place the approach. So go down to Roundabout Approach. Pick that one. And that shows you what you got to have on the right-hand side. You got to have a couple of circles, and it should tell you in the prompts which ones it's looking for, in what order, and then what roadway or what center line it needs after that. So go ahead and click on that one and OK. And this one has one of three. So we're looking for three different items, just like that picture showed. Locate reference element, profiled approach center line is the first thing that it's looking for. So hopefully this line out here has something on it. If it doesn't, we might have to create something, but let's go see if that's got it. Okay, so we can click on that line. It says profile exists. You can kind of see that there. It says the word line. Active profile exists, and then there's a level. But if the profile didn't exist on that one, we would get a circle with a line through it because it has to have a profile in order to place that one. So go ahead and select that center line. Move off of it a little bit. Next thing it says is the outer lane crown circle. Okay, so the outer lane crown circle, that's that inside circle there of the outer lane for the crown. And it has also got a profile on it. The profile there is the active crown. You can see. So if you weren't sure which one, just let your mouse rest on it. It should say that it's the crown. These come from the templates that are placed out there. So that particular civil cell, that line in there, or that circle, is named crown, so it knows exactly which one it is. When you use corridor tools, like these corridors out here, it automatically assigns profiles to the lines that are part of that. So you don't have to like go out and try to put an edge of pavement profile in there. It already comes across with the template that you place on it. So that's one good thing about it. It's already there. Pretty smooth. Okay, so pick that just inside circle, just inside the outer circle. Click that one. And then the third one is the outer circle. So we can go all the way out to the outside edge and pick that one. Okay, once you pick that one, then it's going to go out there and show you a picture, hopefully, of what that looks like. Now, we're lucky because I drew this in here already, and I drew it probably in the right direction. If I hadn't drawn in the right direction, if I maybe started it here and went up or there and went down, these things may not necessarily show up here. They might show down here on the other side. So if that's the case, now it's asking me to view the alternates, which are these little arrows. So all three of those lines that we picked on to place this, now you could go out and pick those different arrows and switch it around if you needed to. Okay, this one comes in looking pretty good. This is class, and that's why it did. If you did it at your office, 99% of the time it will not be exactly like this. You would probably have to hit those little triangles to get it to flip over. Okay, so but for us, this one looks pretty good, so I'm going to right click to skip any alternates. Okay, and then do we want to clip out anything on this one? Yeah, I'm going to clip a couple of things out on this one. I'm going to clip out this corridor for that roadway. So if you go to one of the handles on it, one of the little lines that sticks out of the corridor, select that one time, and then go down. Let's clip out the roundabout too. Okay, so that is the same thing. These are template drops all the way around the outside edge of that. That has got a linear template applied to it. So you can pick on the edge of that as well. And now you're clipping these two items. Would we have to clip that circle? Probably not. It's going to go up to the edge of it because it knows the edge of that circle. So it's probably not going to do a whole lot for us there. But it will ensure that we get to the edges of our terrain there. Okay, so we've got that. And now we can right click after we get those two in there to reset, and then just left click to accept it. The reason why I didn't worry about making my active ground active, or my existing ground active, is you can see in that right window, we actually have end conditions out there. Okay? If nothing was active out there, you wouldn't see those green end conditions out there. All you would see would be our pavement. So I know I've got it active, but if you had to make it active, you just rest on that, out there. I guess you can show them if you want. Yeah, like we've done all throughout class. It's this line out here, and then just set it active. But I can tell just by looking at that view that it is active. Okay. So now this is what it looks like over on the right hand view. You can kind of see it starts to mesh that in there, and it clipped out our other terrain out there, and it placed it over the top of everything. Is it perfect? Yes, just like I said yesterday. There are some things that I'm going to also be working on to create, little islands out here. I'll have different approach legs and things available coming soon. But for right now, this is just the first one that we have. One thing that's good about all these civil cells is that all the items that make up this civil cell are actual MoDOT features. So If you let your mouse rest on any of those features, it'll tell you, that it's edge of pavement or edge of shoulder or that sort of thing. Once you've placed that in there, you can see if you kind of hover over to the right-hand side of one of these, go over to that far right. He lets his mouse rest on the far right edge of that, and it tells me that it is a civil cell. Okay? If he clicks on that civil cell, we have some options available in our heads-up display for a civil cell. Okay? First thing is properties. If you look at the properties of it, there's not a ton of things in there. It's just telling you what it is. It's not valid for placement because it's already been placed in this drawing. So then the other things that are available here, one is to drop it from this location. So if you get your heads-up display again on that, it is kind of hard to grab every once in a while. The whole thing has to highlight. If it doesn't highlight, right mouse button until you get it to highlight. It'll eventually highlight. Second tool in there is to process it. So if something has changed, the existing ground changed or something like that, you could go process that, and it'll try to fit the ground. You can drop it to its individual elements from here. Next thing over, component quantities, you can actually get quantities if things are assigned like concrete to it, which this one does have concrete assigned to it. So you can get quantities based on that. Or you can completely delete it off of the screen, and that will delete the whole entire civil cell. One more quick thing I'll look at on that particular civil cell, and then I'll let you guys place the other 3 legs. Over here under Project Explorer, you go in there and make sure you're under Civil Model. And under Civil Data, we'll see all the files that are referenced in there, kind of grayed out there. And then that very first one, the C11 group exercise, expand that out. If you come down about 3/4 of the way, you'll see civil cells in there. You hit that plus, and you can see the 2 civil cells that you have available in this drawing to look at. If you expand those out, each one of them has their own references, their dependent elements, if there's a clipping boundary assigned or not. If you expand out, let's say, dependent elements, go ahead and expand that. This is what makes up one of those civil cells. Okay, so if you were to go, say, drop that civil cell, now you're going to have all these different components that make up that civil cell in your drawing. So this kind of combines them or collects them into one little collection, and now you've got a surface for the median up there, you've got a design boundary surface. So there's all kinds of different things that make this up, and they're all based on those 3 lines that you put in there. So those 3 lines that, like that approach that I have up there, I have to have those 3 lines. Everything's based on those. If I were to go draw something in a civil cell that wasn't based on those, it just wouldn't show up. So everything is dependent on all the other different elements that are in there. Okay? So once you drop that out, they become individual. You can delete individual pieces. A good example yesterday was like if we had, let's say, a pipe underneath a road, and I made that part of a civil cell for a driveway, and you didn't want that pipe in yours, you could drop that civil cell, delete the pipe out. Okay? That would be one way that, one good reason why you might want to drop one. Okay? Go ahead and close down the civil cells portion of it up. Hit the minus on civil cells. Stay in Project Explorer, but just hit the minus on the very top one, civil cells. Okay. Under Project Explorer, you've also got everything else that makes up your drawing, what corridors are in here, all your linear elements, what reference models that you have. Everything is available to look at in Project Explorer. You're going to get used to this one and going in here quite a bit to look at different things. Okay, what kind of questions do we have before I let you do the other legs? Any questions on civil cells? Is it kind of cool? Kind of neat? It's there's going to be a lot more out there than what are currently out there, but there are quite a few things out there just to get you started to place them and to play with them. You can imagine that there will be hundreds of these eventually, but basically you only want to do ones that are commonly used. You know, you don't want one that you don't hardly ever use. So, all right. So let's do the individual exercise, and I'll let you do it on your own because I think it's not too difficult, really. I don't really give you a step-by-step in the individual exercise, but really all you're doing is selecting, that approach, and then you're picking on the approach. Just read the prompts as you're placing these out there, and you can follow steps 45 through 55. If you can't remember what we just did, there are steps 45 through 55 of the previous exercise. And you can go out and place it, and then what it should look like is on 11-32. Basically, when you're completely done, you can zoom around over in this right-hand window. We didn't talk about it a whole lot so far, but just make sure if you do rotate this window and zoom around a lot, that this is the active window you do it in. Because if you pick window tools up here, you're actually still modifying this window. So you just want to make sure that you're in this window. And then you can use the rotate tool and rotate that around to have a good look at it. Okay. So go ahead and work on that exercise, and the next thing, we'll start about 9 o'clock, and then you got something to say, Ashley? Oh, no. Okay. All right. Have fun with it. Smile while you do it. Team MoDOT. Okay, I'm done.